and the All Indiana Podcast Network. This is the News 8 Daily 8 Podcast, a Wish TV News 8 update.
Hello, I'm Jeremy Jenkins, and this is your News 8 Daily 8 Podcast for Monday, February 24th. We begin in Fort Wayne, where we are still working to find out more about a police shooting. Police say just before 6:30 yesterday evening, they received a call about a male driver passed out in a pickup truck at Rudisill Boulevard and Avondale Drive. That is just off of Highway 27 on Fort Wayne's south side. Investigators say an officer fired their gun, though police did not say why. Officers say a person of interest was located, though there was no word on an arrest. Police say the officer involved will be placed on administrative leave, which is standard procedure. There was still no word on what caused a weekend crash on I-70 in Wayne County that left a man dead. The Wayne County Sheriff's Office says it happened Saturday night in the eastbound lanes of I-70 west of Richmond. Investigators say they found a Toyota Corolla in the median against the cable barriers when they arrived on scene. The Sheriff's Office says 28-year-old Cedric Walter was the driver and was dead inside the car. Turning now to I-Team aid, budget cuts threatened by the new head of the Environmental Protection Agency could impact solar energy projects here in our state. We spoke to a group who is supposed to receive some of that money. The group's director says it could cost the state jobs and drive up the price of power. News 8's Kyla Russell reports.
$117 million. That's how much the Indiana Community Action Association says they were awarded from the Environmental Protection Agency under President Biden last year. Now under President Trump, they say their unreceived funding is frozen and their account is suspended.
Well, it is really the only funding source that the coalition has.
The money was included in the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund, approved by Congress under the 2022 Inflation Reduction Act. The fund offered grants to various groups, including the ICAA. Part of their money was to be used to help fund the Solar for All program, which aims to install lasting solar panels in communities across the state, with a special focus on low-income areas and disadvantaged communities. Here in Indianapolis, some of the money would have gone to transforming an old landfill on the southeast side into a solar farm, providing an alternative energy source for nearby houses.
We have a goal to reach all 92 counties to provide solar opportunities to income qualified individuals, but without the grant money, none of that will be able to proceed.
Doing that won't only put a stop to the work. Former EPA Deputy Administrator Janet McCabe says the freeze will have several ripple effects, including driving up the price of power.
We're going to see businesses think, is it really a good idea for me to invest and maybe plan to hire more people when I'm not sure whether the federal government is actually going to deliver on the commitments that it made?
Without the funding, several jobs that already exist or would be created would be lost too. The new head of the EPA, Lee Zeldin, says fraud is the reason they plan to pull contracts for the tens of thousands of projects. But McCabe tells me there were multiple safeguards in place to ensure there was no money used in bad faith.
It would actually be pretty difficult to put in an application that would make it through the multiple levels of expert review if you weren't legitimately qualified to do the work that you needed to do. This was a true competition.
McCabe says the changes only disrupt workers and everyday Hoosiers, especially when many of the contracts for projects have already been signed on the dotted line.
Just not good for the country. It's not good for the people who live in this country. It's not good for businesses in this country. It's not good for our energy policy.
We made a commitment to see it through. The government made a commitment to us that they were going to fund it. This has the ability to impact not just the people who receive the services, but to transform the market.
Reporting here in Indianapolis, I'm Kyla Russell for Wish TV. WishTV.com, or follow us on Facebook for updates.
On to a story making international news. The Vatican says Pope Francis remains alert, responsive, and attended Mass on Sunday, despite remaining in critical condition. The Vatican says that the 88-year-old Pope is battling several ailments, including pneumonia, a complex lung infection, and kidney failure, though the Vatican claims the kidney failure is mild and under control. Doctors have said Francis' condition is touch and go given his age and pre-existing lung disease. It is not clear yet what will happen if the Pope becomes unconscious or unable to resume his duties. Let's talk sports. IU gets a big win over its arch rival and does so with a symbol from Hoosier lore, a chair. 40 years after Bobby Knight famously threw a chair across the court in the rivalry game, yesterday Coach Mike Woodson sat in what he claims is that very chair from the game on February 23rd, 1985. Just take a listen.
And there sat the little red chair with all the documentation, and I happened to get my hands on it. So that's why it was special to have it here tonight. I wasn't going to throw the chair, but I did want to sit in it.
On the court, the Hoosiers trailed at the half, but Malik Renew tied the game with a dunk as IU went on to a 28-3 run to start the second half. IU beat the number 13 Boilermakers 73-58. It's the Hoosiers' second win over a top 25 team in the last 2 weeks as they try to play their way into the NCAA tournament. While the 19-game win streak is over for the Notre Dame women, they go to overtime on the road against North Carolina State, where Sanaya Rivers helps put the Irish away with the layup. Notre Dame falls to the number 13 Wolfpack 104-95 for their first ACC loss of the season, and it's one that could knock them out of the number 1 spot in the AP poll this week. When it comes to the weather, the warm weather trend continues. Storm Track 8 says you can expect a warm, partly cloudy, and breezy day today. Meteorologist Marcus Bailey has your News 8 Daily 8 forecast.
We had a high of 47 yesterday, and you would have thought it was like 65 degrees outside. It was wonderful. And we got some better days ahead, too, to talk about here. So let me get you started. Quiet weather here this morning. I don't anticipate any weather-related issues for you heading to work or school. We're at 34 degrees right now in Plainfield, 34 in Fishers, and 33 currently in Greenfield. Many locations are kind of hovering around that freezing mark this morning, but nice to be just above. It's 33 officially at the airport in Indianapolis. It's a southwest wind at 9. It is enough to send the chills into the mid-20s with a mostly cloudy sky here for this morning. We do have kind of a decent layer of cloud cover, mid-level and high-level clouds ushered in by this trough. We got a couple of these little upper-level waves of energy. This one's going to move through during the morning hours. I've got a secondary one that's moving in from southern Canada. That comes later tonight, and that could bring us some slight rain chances as we go through the overnight hours. But vast majority of the day is going to be pretty dry. While we're sitting around freezing, you can see low to mid 40s out west. So some of this slightly milder air conditions are going to be moving into our area. Now, we're seeing the winds pick up a little bit, up to 15 miles per hour, places like Kokomo, Muncie, Fort Wayne, South Bend. I think you will see that increase to the south a bit here. Now, despite that, I think we're going to warm things up nicely. We're going to stay chilly through around 9 o'clock, mid-30s, we'll say. By lunchtime, we're already hitting our high from yesterday. And then I've got us into the mid-50s, which is about 10 degrees above average for this time of year. But I didn't mention those winds. They're not going to be, super strong. But if you're spending some time outside, you'll certainly notice it. 25 to 30 mile per hour gusts at times through the heart of the day. We do have those slight rain chances overnight. I got better rain chances coming in for the midweek as we really warm things up here a little bit. We'll tie that out in my Storm Track 8 forecast coming your way in just a few minutes.
To get a peek at Marcus Bailey's full forecast, just head over to wishtv.com, or you can download the Wish TV Storm Track 8 app. And don't forget to check out our Storm Track 8 weather blogs. This has been your News 8 Daily 8 podcast for Monday, February 24th. I'm Jeremy Jenkins for Wish TV, wishtv.com, or follow us on Facebook for updates.
This is the News 8 Daily 8 podcast, a Wish TV News 8 update on demand. For even more, on demand and on the go. Connect with Wish TV on Facebook at wishtv.com and on the free Wish TV mobile app. Thank you for listening, and be sure to like, subscribe, and follow this podcast for updates every weekday morning on the All Indiana Podcast Network and wherever you get your podcast.